Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, what we're going to try and start right now is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but something that I only put pen to paper on yesterday, and Be'ezras Hashem will bring it into voice today. And it's going to be just a reflection or a review of the unique tefillah that rests at the very central point of the transition between Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv of Shabbos, at least in accordance with Nusach Svard, that instead of reading the Mishnayos of Bameh Madlikin, at that point of transition between the welcoming of Shabbos into the mundane space of the week and the transition from that mundane space through the sanctification and the elevation of all things that takes place through Kabbalah Shabbos, prior to Mariv, prior to actually entering into the space of Shabbos in a real way, we encounter the Kegavna Tefillah. Now, the Kegavna Tefillah is not necessarily a tefillah that is typically associated with tefillah, but rather it is a chelik of the Zohar HaKadosh. It's a chelik of the Zohar and Parshas Truma that throughout the process of developing the tefillah of Leil Shabbos was added in to serve as a bridge of sorts. And we're going to see that this tefillah of Kigavna, as powerful as it is linguistically, as moving it is in terms of the Aramaic chanting element that carries a person away even beyond their intellectual understanding, what we're going to try and see through the lens of our tzaddikim, in particular the Baal HaTanya, Rabbi Nachman, and the Kamarna Rebbe, we're going to see is that Kigavna represents really the fundamental bridge, the fundamental process in which a person enters into the light of Shabbos. Now, as a brief hakdama, as a brief introduction, because we'll try and let the words speak for themselves, Kigavna, the chelek of the Zohar, the teaching in the Zohar, Kigavna, brings us face to face with a paradox that rests at the very heart of the human experience. That on the one hand, to be human and to be part and parcel of the lower realm, to be part and parcel of that space which is devoid of the animating light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is no longer accessing the direct expression of the essential light, so to speak, to be part of the occupation of the lower world means that we live within the condition of being lower. The condition of being lower, the condition of being concealed, the condition of being removed from the face-to-face encounter with godliness is something that certainly precedes the human experience of conscious awareness in this world, but it finds full expression within human consciousness itself. Meaning to say, from the very outset of creation, the very nature of creation, the very vessel that allows creation to come into itself, the tzimtzum, is the distinction or the separating between one thing and the other. Prior to the tzimtzum, prior to any element of constriction, all things were unified in all manners of unity. And when things are unified in all manners of unity, mu'uchad b'tachlis hayichud, so there's no distinction between above and below, between inside and outside, between left and right, between top and bottom. Everything is subsumed within the self-sameness of it all, in that upper unity prior to the possibility of distinction. Enter creation, or enter the emergence of creation from within the infinite gradations of potential that were taking place even prior to creation. Once HaKadosh Baruch Hu has decided, Kavyachol, to reveal some element of constriction, all we can speak about is that moment of decision, so to speak, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made to reveal himself. And from that point forward, in spite of the fact that it remains ever connected to the infinite essence of godliness, nevertheless, the infinite essence of godliness, so to speak, never really enters into the conversation. We know that it's present. We know that it is irretrievable, ungraspable. We know that it is beyond our minds, but at the very same point, it saturates all manners of existence. When it comes to Atzmusi Baruch Kavyachol, we've already stated over and over and over and over again that never really enters into the conversation. We're talking about Giluyim, we're talking about the revelations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world after the Tzimtzum, because we can't grasp that which is above the Tzimtzum. After the Tzimtzum, what we encounter is division. Achas dibur Elokim shtayim zu shamati. Hashem spoke once, speaking as we understand from the Baal HaTanya and Shar Yichud B'Amuna and the Gran Sefer Yetzirah, is the tzimtzum, is the heimotza usapeh, the particularization of expression from the infinite space of thought into the finite and particular space of speech. that is a process that undergoes stages of minimization and concealment that are seen through the lens of speech. Speech, utterance, the expression of speech, the potential towards speech, the descent of speech into exile, and the ascent of speech into redemption are all part and parcel of the sugya of Malchus, which is the sugya of Malchus Peh, which is the sugya of Tzimtzum. The Peh is Akudim, it's the lowest world of the upper worlds of infinitude. It's Malchus, it's the lowest element of the worlds of finitude. The Peh, speech acts, davening, whatever it is that comes about through our own mouths, as Bodhidus, is all seen in the lens of a tzimtzum. Achaz dibra Elokim, once HaKadosh Baruch Hu has decided to speak existence into existence, so then shtaim zu shamati, memela, the natural posture in this world is to hear twice, because the emergence of tzimtzum is suddenly the birthplace of what appears to be duplicitousness and separation. And so the typical way that we see separation is above and below, Shamayim and Aretz. And we know that the tachlis of all things is to come to a place of Yadata Hayom Hashivoisa Elavavecha, right? That we understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is above, is below, is in all things at once, and all of those divisions and separations, as real as they are also fantasy. In the end of the day, we live in the split structure between above and below, between the Elyonim and the Tachtonim. Now, we know, and we're taking many postulates here as a given because of some of the previous shirim, but Be'ezras Hashem, each and every part can be discussed in various sugyas. It's not going to be really in the Kegavna Tefillah, but Elyonim and Tachtonim represent two fundamentally different ways of grasping HaKadosh Baruch Hu through our minds and our own lives. Both are relegated to human consciousness because the notion of above and below is still a human construct, and we're never talking about the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu again. So none of this is mitzido, none of this is from the perspective of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as the Balatanya would refer to it, and as the Nefesh HaChaim would refer to it in somewhat different terms. Everything is mitzidenu. So even this split between the upper and the lower, between Yichad Ilah and Yichad Tata, the upper unity and the lower unity, in spite of the fact that we may assume that the higher level of that split, which would be the Yichad Ilah or the Elyonim, would be relegated to the perception of God, that's not the case. It's our perception or our personal conception of the perception of God, so to speak, but it's still within human consciousness. So the Elyonim and the Tachtonim are two ways that the human being experiences their relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. Aside from the synonyms that we can associate with the Elyonim as being purified and refined and free from struggle and moved away or removed from the human condition, all of the various synonyms that one can apply, the Elyonim are referred to as an emergence from above down below, an isarusa de la'ela, a motivation that comes about not through human experience, not through human toil and choice, but rather through the divine grace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It refers to as mayim duchrim, masculine waters which descends from above to below to irrigate a field below. It refers to as a chesed chinam, as something that is emergent, devoid of any experience or human volitional choosing. And it's seen as a place of refinement and clarity where everything is good. The Tachtonim, however, the lower realms, with all of the synonyms or the antonyms to what we use to describe the upper realms, would be seen as lowly, destitute, removed from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, stuck in a position of limitation, of listlessness, of all of those things that are concealing in our lives that prevent us from grasping HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's going to be the Tachtonim. And so Kigavna opens up with the recognition, and again, this is going to be explicit in Rabbi Noson's understanding of Kigavna, as hinted in the writings of Rabbi Nachman and expressed fully in the Likutei Halachos, that Kigavna, when a person comes to that point on Shabbos, or at the end, mamish, the death of the previous week and the birth of Shabbos, it's still a liminal space. It's Shabbos already. It's not like Mincha, but it's still not fully Leil Shabbos yet until a person comes home and they see the candles lit. And so at this point, at this transitionary point, there's still an awareness that the experience of Shabbos, the experience that I'm about to enter into, is not one that can be fully disconnected from the experience that I'm leaving. Shabbos is not something that takes place in spite of the previous 6 days of the week and all of the changing colors and hues of experience, but rather Shabbos is something that is built and revealed upon the back and upon the steps revealed through the mundane process of the week. Meaning to say that Shabbos is not the nullification of the intensity of the week, but Shabbos is the refinement and the revelation that the intensity of the week was there only for the purpose of creating this experience that I call Shabbos. Now that I've come to the tachlis of what the world is, now that I've understood what Ma'aseh Bereshis is, what Monday is, what Tuesday is, what Wednesday is, what Thursday is, and what Erev Shabbos is, each day with its own burden, each day with its own need for clarification, each day with its own sadness, and each day with its own opportunity for joy, each day with its own vicissitudes, and all of the difficult things that make the 6 days of the week the ever-changing chambers of experience where a person can lose themselves very easily in the confusion and the bilbul of the self. When I come into Shabbos, especially at this point where I realize that, wow, I can't have Shabbos without the experience of Erev Shabbos, that these are not two separate territories, but rather they are a singular space that transitions forth from one to another, at that point I come to realize the importance and the inherent value that the 6 days of the week offered me. All of the struggle, all of the toil, all of the intensity is what allows me to find the rest of Shabbos. It's what allows me to find that experience. So kigavna. Kigavna means just as. We're going to see a secret of symmetry, a just asness between the Elyonim and the Tachtonim. We're going to see how the bottom reflects above and above reflects the bottom. But before we even go there, we can look at how the tzaddikim understood the word kigavna, a gavan. Gavanim are colors. They're hues. They're different visual ways of experiencing this world, of Tmunas Hashem Yabit. The Mekubalim spoke of seeing things in vivid colors, and each color representing a particular state of consciousness. But for a person like myself, colors mean the tint that experience takes on, the various postures, the various rooms and experiences and shapes and forms in which one chooses to see the world. So one color might represent something lighter, a less of a grasping of control and more of a relinquishment of control. Dusk will be another color of the mind. Music will be a color. Interpersonal relationships, learning specific books. Each sefer has its cover. Each sefer has its own color that represents what it's coming to represent. A person can develop a real aesthetic theory of orientation towards colors, especially as built on the writings of our Mekubalim, and transform it into a psychological state where there's different hues to experience each day with its own stuff, each moment with its own triggers. And so first and foremost, as we're entering into Shabbos, we're saying kigavna. Kigavna means like all of those colors that I'm coming away from, all of the various colors of the 6 days of the week, and all of the transitions and the shifts and the bleeding of one color into the other, which appears to be scattered and splattered, is in truth part and parcel of the recognition of the secret color of Shabbos. Shabbos is the light of brilliance. Shabbos is the flame that contains all colors together. But before we can benefit from that singularity of all colors and the emergence of unity from within disunity, we have to first and foremost own the disunity. And so what we're saying is kigavna, like all of these various colors, kigvanim hamishtanim. The Tikkun Zohar speaks about the heichal hagvanim hamishtanim, the chamber of changing colors. And Rabbi Nachman Schusia Ganalenu utilizes this notion and this imagery as well for depending on where we're at in understanding Likutei Maharan and the writings of Tzaddik Emes, that the Heichal Hagvanim Hamishtanim is the secret chamber of changing colors, which is what it means to be a human being in this world. The ups and the downs of everyday life, the dysregulations and the regulations and the Keseder and the low Keseder, the right way and the wrong way in which experience seems to unfold in front of me on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis. And we emerge out of this chamber of changing colors. We may start off our week on Motzei Shabbos saying, Hashem, let me see the world through the colors of Shabbos, but by the time Erev Shabbos comes, we've been spent all of our time running and returning through the various changes, through the various overwhelming shifts of consciousness, awareness, experience, and posture. And so first and foremost, we want to say we're coming out of the Heichal HaGvanim HaMishtanim, we're emerging out of this chamber of changing colors, and not only have we emerged, but rather the emergence out of the change is the very thing that drives the unity of Shabbos. This is already, we'll go back to it in Mirz Hashem, but this is the Hodu prayer. This is the capital of Hodu that the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh instituted to say before Mincha and Erev Shabbos that really when Shabbos comes, a person has to realize that I've just been saved. I have been saved from the insanity of the week, and I've survived in a miraculous way. And I'm making a Birchas HaGomel. And as Rabbi Nassan connects explicitly this Birchas HaGomel with Kigavna, that it's specifically from within the changes, within the dangers of the week, that I come to recognize the unity, the Achdus HaPashat, that simplified unity, that complex unity that emerges specifically from the Gvanim HaMishtanim. So that's Kigvanin, Kigavna, like the colors. But really over here it means as if, meaning not as if, as is, Kigavna, just as it is above, so too it is below. Kigavna de'inin misyachadin la'ela be'echad, oif hachi ihi esyachadis latata beraza de'echad, lemeheve imun la'ela chad l'kabel chad. So what the Kigavna Tefillah starts off with is a typical expression of the symmetry or the symmetrical relationship or the hierarchical balance between the upper realms, which we described earlier, and the lower realms, which we're describing now. Generally speaking, in the typical spiritual hierarchy, what we see is that the upper realms remain the ideal form of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's expression, and the lower realms represent this real form, although it's not ideal. It's broken, it's avoidable, and a person should remove themselves from it and refine that experience to make it as easy as possible. So we're seeing just as HaKadosh Baruch Hu is unified above, La'ela Be'echad, Kegavna, just as the Inun Misyachtin La'ela Be'echad, that all of the spheres and all of the partsufim and all the various expressions of multiplicity are in truth unified in their root above in one. So too is it unified down here, meaning the main thing is up there. But down here, as a symptom of the fact that there's unity above, down here is also unified. Not only that, we have a raya from the distinction of the language in the Zohar HaKadosh. Above, the unity is referred to as echad. There's a true unity. There's a true experience unity above. The inun misyachtan la'ela be'echad. Oif hachi, so too, ihi, down here in a feminization of the word, which is malchus, which is lower unity, is yechadas letata beraza de'echad. It's not a full unity, it's simply in the secret of unity. The secret of unity meaning something that is not revealed, something that is not graspable by way of intellect or by way of vision. Unlike the yichadilah of the inun misyachadin la'ela be'echad, of where everything is revealed to be fully unified in a clarified way. Down here, it still remains in a secret. So again, it's highlighting the hierarchical balance between the above unity and the secret of unity below. That really, because there's a unity above, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really Ein Oid Milvado, and that the true expression of reality is the unified light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so too we can benefit here in this world of fragmentation and live with that secret of unity. So fine, so that's a simple teaching of symmetry, an important teaching, a fundamental teaching, but it still keeps us within the narrative. It keeps us within that perspective that above is better than below, and that above dictates and determines the value of the below. Because obviously when it comes to any spiritual sensibility, our assumptions always are that that which is above, that which is more refined, that which is simpler, that which is easier, is much better. And so because the upper unity reveals the necessity of a lower unity, the tachlis of this is lemeheve imhoin la'elechad lekabel chad, that what we now have is a unification above that is prepared to receive a unification below. Again, highlighting that the above is first and foremost most significant, and it has an impact on below. Now, again, the secret of the mehave echad be'echad is a different sugya, which we're not necessarily going to go into right now. But suffice it to say, the tachlis is yichud ilah and yichud tata, that a person has to be above and below at once. And the secret of a tzaddik who lives on the darga of Adam Kadmon, who could be in the worlds of Atzilus and the worlds of separation at the very same time. Unlike the typical assumption of a tzaddik from the darga of Atzilus, which is only in the world of Chachma or Atzilus, so there's no interpretation or engagement with the worlds of separation. The worlds of Bri, Yitzir, and Asiya are off limits to a tzaddik like that, to a neshama like that. But the tachlis of being a tzaddik, as Rabbi Nachman points out, as the Mittler Rebbe points out, as the Baal Tanya points out, as the Gra points out, as the Rashash points out, as the Ramchal points out, as all of the tzaddikim point out, is to be above and below at the same time. As Rabbi Nachman says, to have a home that has an attic as well as a basement, for a person to be above and below at once. That's the secret of Lemehave Echad Be'echad, as we're going to see. But suffice it to say that at this point, we see that the above is the dictating nature of things. That's what's most important. And below is simply symptomatic. Now, aside from being a difficult notion, because it doesn't bespeak the truthful nature of the relational nature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's desire for the avoid of Klal Yisrael, this type of perspective, seemingly innocuous, really forces us back into a typical holding pattern where we have come to relegate our own experience of self as destitute and removed from the tachlis. Meaning that to be a human being down here below is not a good thing. It's hard, it's difficult, and my human symptoms and all of my confusions and my all too human natures that lead me astray from whatever it is that I'm trying to do in my life, we tend to view these things through eyes of skepticism and through eyes of pathology. We see ourselves as struggling as a symptom of a fall from some previous state of perfection, and therefore every struggle or every moment of imperfection is going to be seen as a secondary symptom that needs to be cured. But this is so far from the truth of the notion of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has revealed through his tzaddikim to us about what it means to be a human being in this world. The tachlis of being a human being in this world, as we've understood so often, is the dir b'tachtonim, is being a human being, is being here in all of our experiences and all of our stuff, and refining it ever so slowly in accordance with our own spiritual understanding and psychological rootedness. But the tachlis is down here. The tachlis is to be down here. And we've stigmatized ourselves so much, and we've devalued the experience of spiritual struggle and the refinement of trying to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world and dealing with the engagement in this world, that we've come to relegate this worldliness to a secondary position of inessential and symptomatic behavioral necessity, while above the contemplative space of transcendental ideals that removes me from the difficulty of this world is seen as the ideal. And what that does is it pushes us into a pattern of shame and guilt and stuckness over really being ourselves, really learning what it means to be ourselves fully so that we can actually begin to have a fighting chance. So a teaching like this that says above is the most important and it dictates what's taking place below does tend sometimes to the uninitiated eye to reinforce a certain pattern that puts us down and relegates us to a position of a shameful apprehension of self, which is the source of so many of our issues, of what keeps us stuck, that we don't value ourselves, that we see our avodah as inessential, that we see our things as insignificant, that the deep sense of insignificance that human beings and earth is living with from the beginning, because in truth, Chazal have already told us there's a profound level of insignificance, but it's specifically our ability to recognize the insignificance and to transform it and to make it significant where our very significance lies. And so if a person doesn't learn how to have emunah in their own avoda, how to have emunah in themselves as the representation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Tachtonim itself, so then we're going to run into all sorts of spiritual dilemmas. And so not only is this a mistaken teaching, but it's an unhealthy one in the sense that it reinforces a power struggle between above and below, and it reminds us to be compelled to accept the fact that to be above would be much better to be below. That's the implication so far in Kigavna. But the Zohar Kadosh continues, and it says, Hud sheberichu echad. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. Be'emes koidem atzimtzum, it was all oneness. Everything is truly one, which means that we have to begin now to reorient ourselves as to how we see this distinction between above and below. That yes, above and below represent a division of power where there is one that appears to be as two, and now there appears to be a Mayim Elyonim and a Mayim Tachtonim, and the Mayim Elyonim are close to God, and the Mayim Tachtonim are trying to come close to God. But in truth, there's an Achdus HaKolelos that contains both within it, and once we understand that the lower realm is also part of that fundamental Achdus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as is revealed by all of our tzaddikim, At that point, we can learn to look at it differently, because now the lower realm is not seen as something separate and apart from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it's now going to be seen through the lens of being an essential part and expression of that unity. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. Le'ela lo yosef al korsayed yikare ad desavidas ihi beraza de echad kigavna delay lemeve echad vehechad baha ukmina raza de Hashem echad shma echad. Here we find the revolutionary reversal of the role that the human being plays in Avodas Hashem, in existence, and especially in the process of La'asos Shabbos, that it's up to us to make Shabbos, that we have to see Ki'ilu Kol Melachta Achasuya, as if all of our work is done. And without that, we're not going to be Zoicha, we're not going to be Zoicha to have a Te'ima of Shabbos Kodesh. So we see the Zohar HaKadosh says, once we've told you that above is more important than below, now a person has to live with the revolution that says, in truth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not sit above. He does not sit on his throne. He does not sit on the Kisei HaKavod. He does not reveal himself, so to speak. He does not engage with his own inherent unity, so to speak, in the revelation of the throne, which is the expression of godliness through Bri, Yitzir, and Asiyah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Elyonim, the thing that we've just been speaking about being the most important in our lives, the most essential, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not sit on his throne until we down here below in the lower realms engage in the secret of unity just as it is above. Meaning to say that in truth, Adarabba Ibcha Mestabra, the up is not what's most important, because there is no up without the down. The tachlis of a ben Adam is to create Shamayim Chadashim, and the Shamayim will not be revealed until it is made by us down here Ba'aretz. As the Helagat Tzadikim hint to in the secret of, if it weren't for Klal Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't be referred to by the names that we could refer to him. This is the secret of Avodah L'Tzarach Gavoa. Hashem needs our Avodah. Hashem needs our Avodah Kavyachol. After the Tzimtzum, Hashem needs us to become the vessel that is roi to receive his kingship. It's us who recognize and force HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kavyachol to reveal himself. It's through the human effort. Trach gut v'zayin gut. If I think good about God, then God is going to be revealed. If I'm not thinking good about God, then God is not going to be revealed to me. It's not a statement about the presence of God on an ontological level. That's ever present, no matter what. No one can escape from that, up, down, right, left, all around, here, there, everywhere. But the hasaga, the psicha, the opening of the mind, which is the secret of Shabbos, which is the birthplace of the Nahar Hayotzim Eden, Lahashkai Sagan, that the river flows forth from Gan Eden, Ka'ech Seif Nayam Shabbos, that there's a revelation within the mind of a desire that could only be tasted through the Ne'imus of Shabbos. When I'm able to realize that it's my effort, that it's my experience, from within the sunken place, from within the Heichal Hagvanim Hamishtanim, from within all of those difficult places, it's me that the Avodah is dependent upon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs my struggle. All of those things that I just went through in the 6 days of the week that I saw as so incidental and symptomatic and shame-inducing are in truth the very tools that HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs in order to reveal his Gilui, Amiti B'tachlis Ha'achdus, that every ounce of experience, every mania that an individual encounters in this world, every color, every hue of experience is enough opportunity for a person to reveal the Kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kegavna, like my colors, in accordance with my colors, in accordance with my experiences during the week and my struggles and my ups and my downs, that's going to be how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed. And so we see a revolutionary way of looking at ourselves as we enter into Shabbos, that it's our work to bring Shabbos in. Rabbi Nachman says, see good on Shabbos because Shabbos is good. A person must compel themselves to joy on Shabbos. We have to close our minds off to the possibility of despair, and anytime a thought of invasive thoughts comes to pull me away from the center of happiness on Shabbos, of calmness, of my moment of serenity, I can welcome those thoughts to the table, to sit with me at the Shabbos table, to sing Zmiros with me, but I cannot get up from the table to entertain those thoughts. The moment I get up from the table to entertain those thoughts, I've already been yotzeh from the Rishus HaYachid into the Rishus HaRabim, and I'm already lost. There's a secret of an Eruv which reveals that everything is always remaining in its essential connection, because the Eruv is Ayin Beis, which is Chesed, and Reish Yud Vav, which is Gevura, and it's the secret that Chesed and Gevura, Yichud and Rabim are really both the same. Nevertheless, I have to remain steadfast in my my unwillingness to get up from that table, because it's my avodah that's going to bring Kudsha Baruch down. Kudsha Baruch Echad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one, La'ela Lo Al Kursaya, but above he does not sit on his chair, the Yakari of glory, Ad de Isavidas Ihi Baraza de Echad, until we engage in the secret of unity down here. It's still only a secret, we can't taste unity. That's all we have to do. When I tap into the secret of unity, which is that even though I can't grasp unity, I still believe in unity. I can't grasp it, but I believe in it. So what difference does it make whether I grasp it or not? Because with Amunah, I have everything. When I tap into the Raza, which the Emek HaMelech says is the Gematria of Yitzchak, that deep secret of the Mea Sha'arim that is born out of the Gevura itself, that when I encounter that Raza de Echad, why is it a secret? Because I've decided that I'm going to believe in the Rabbeinu Shalom right now, and I can't explain that to anybody. If I can, it's not faith. And in that secret, Raza de Echad, Kigavna delay, as it is above, at that point, there's a unification of Echad and Echad. The first Echad is my Echad. When I'm Ached HaKadosh Baruch Hu down here, then there's going to be unification and the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Achdus above. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires, so to speak, my Avodah. That on Shabbos, the person encounters the central stage, Kegavna. I'm making it with my colors. I'm painting the canvas. I'm the one who has to live in the space of Shabbos. And then there's the radical unity of separation and unity, of division and indivisibility, of the infinite and the finite, of the ever-changing process of experience and the unifying point that holds all of experience together. It's echad be'echad, but it's not an echad be'echad where both merge into one another and erase all of their boundaries, because that would just be referred to as echad. Echad be'echad, the secret of echad be'echad is that both of them remain themselves, both of those experiences, Havaya and Adnos, Yichud Ilah, Yichud Tata, Elyonim and Tachtoinim, both maintain their individual expression without negating one another, because the Pratim are going to now be Magala, a deeper level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Giloy of Klal. This is the secret of Ani v'ayin bevasachas. It's not just I, it's not just HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's bevasachas. Echad be'echad, both are unified. They're unified together, but both maintain their own individualized, paradoxical connection between one another, which is the secret of faith, which is the Raza de Me'em Nusa, and the secret of Raza de Echad. It can't be understood, because how can you have two things that are unified and operating together in a deeper unity, where each one still continues to contain its own identifiable particularism? How could that be? That's the secret of Echad be'echad. V'ha'ukmina, and we have already learned this, Razad Hashem Echad v'shmei Echad. It's the secret of Hashem is one and His name is one. Because we are the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kavyachol. We are the Haitzah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Tepoel. And until the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be fully one. Kavyachol, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a vada from the perspective of Kaidam at Simsum, and even Achar at Simsum. Simsum is not Kapshuto. But from our perspective, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not one. Yad al Keis Ka. Right? As long as the name is not Shalem, there's going to be a concealing element, because we're still going to be stuck in that Nechashalim Acharecha, in that Klipa of Amalek, in that place of feeling of insignificant, of not feeling powerful about ourselves, of being besuffic as to whether we're ayin or yesh, being suffik whether we have shaykhs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu or not. And come Shabbos, Kigavna, we have to own our colors and come to realize that it's only when the shame of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be revealed, only when it's specifically down here in this world that it's going to be revealed, then it's going to be revealed above as well. So Be'ezras Hashem, that's the first part of Kigavna, and we'll finish, we'll do one more class on Kigavna, Be'ezras Hashem, on the Raza de Shabbos, Ihi Shabbos, and how the deepest secret of Shabbos is simply that it's Shabbos. That Shabbos is nothing other than the decision to make it Shabbos, and when I make it Shabbos, I bring down every or of Shabbos and engaging with the tikkun of the Lamitas Plalos and the Lamitas Melachos, and I build a Mishkan Mamish wherever I am standing at that moment, Be'ezras Hashem.